Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, listening live or listening in the archive. We are currently the very 1st of August, 2022. And my guest today is Idan Didi. Hello, Idan. How are you, man? You're dialing in from Tel
Hello.
Aviv.
Yeah, right here in the main office in Tel Aviv. Pleasure to be here. Thank you for hosting me.
Beautiful, my friend. I cannot wait for travel to start again because I miss the head office. I miss Tel Aviv. I miss going to Jaffa. I miss the food. I miss the culture, the beaches, everything. So
It's actually beautiful now. Now it's a great time to visit.
Yeah, it is fantastic. It's a great time to visit anytime. I took my wife and children on my last visit. Let's say hello to a couple of guests dialing in today. So Keramat, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Hello, thank you very much for dialing in. We also have Powell. Let us know where you're from. I'm certain it's not the Americas, so I think it's late for you. Thank you for your dedication. We're going to learn some great things here today. And Keramat, I think I got that one twice. All good. Love it. All right. Wonderful. Ask anything. This is an Ask Me Anything session. And Idan, okay, so I am learning on the fly here, and this is going to be brilliant because you were involved in a technology that I think is revolutionary. And I'm going to try and describe it. You're going to say, that was a best efforts, Eddie. It is what it really is, okay? And so my understanding is, so Checkpoint went out and we acquired this beautiful company called Spectral, right? Another great Israeli technology. And Spectral, just a quick hello to Abhilesh. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, my friends. Give me a thumbs up if I did. And yeah, we've got customers dialing in from Iran. That's Keramat, wonderful. And also from Jordan, Dina from Jordan. So thanks for joining us. Now, the Spectral technology, as far as I understand it, is this. It solves the following problem. The problem is actually, I will reference a chief information security officer. I won't be able to give his name because this will tell you the problems that some of these people have. I remember sitting down about a year ago with this gentleman and I said, look, what's one of your biggest problems right now? And he said to me, he said, look, our company is very innovative. It's one of the big tech companies, right, in Silicon Valley. They said they're very innovative. And there's kind of a race between the developers getting code and pumping it out as fast as they can, and in a sense, on purpose, without letting security know or being able to slow them down, because their KPIs, their metrics, everything that they get bonused on, all of the glory from releasing a great product, they get recognition for. And if it gets slowed down by security, well, that's a problem for them. Now, obviously, these people also want to be secure, but that's not their main priority. Let's call it a dysfunction of the setup of corporations as we are still engaging in this new digital online world. So Spectral's technology follows these coders and developers as it goes. It scans for secrets and it makes sure that this code doesn't have inherent vulnerability so that the coders don't have to wait when they develop these amazing innovative products. And at the same time, security doesn't have to say, hey, get back here and pull them back and inspect code. All right, Idan, is that what you guys did?
You can join my team, actually.
Okay,
that was very, very true. Everything you said is very true. Basically, what we want, or what we understood with Spectral, is that developers, as you said, they want to move fast, and that's their KPI. They want to develop, and in today's world, they can develop amazing stuff, amazing things, more than any time before today. However, when you move fast, you will make mistakes, and that's okay. Human error will happen. And human error can cause a very big security risk when you are a developer. So what we wanted to do was to prevent those risks while empowering developers, instead of blocking them, instead of delaying their work, instead of telling them move slower, which we don't want to do, because that's their motivation. They want to move fast. Once a solution will slow them down, they will not adopt the solution. So what we did, we tried to think as developers, and all the founders other than me of Spectral are developers by nature. They use solutions that they didn't love, and they wanted to build a solution that they would love. And that was the vision behind Spectral.
Right. Okay. That's fantastic, man. To me, this is a holy grail in a certain sense, because I think it's always been the Achilles heel of the battle between development, or rather the business in general, whatever the business is, typically tech businesses today in this case, and security. So Idan, were you one of the founders of this company, or so you're one of the founders?
Yeah.
So give me the story. I mean, I'm fascinated to hear how a group of engineers, just smart geeks, sit around a table one day and decide, we should do this. Now, start from the beginning. How did that go? And let me just do a quick hello to a couple of other folks. LinkedIn user, so that is Vivek. Vivek, thank you very much for dialing in. And give us the story then, Idan.
Okay, so maybe something I should mention, that the story started around April 2020. And I don't know if you remember what happened in 2020, but it was in April 2020. It actually was the first wave of COVID. That this was a crazy time to start a startup. We didn't know what's going to happen. But we were 4 founders, and the guy behind the idea is actually the CEO of Spectral, Dotan Ahum. He's been developing stuff. He was a CTO. He's been an open source writer. He was the first man that initiated this idea, and he encountered a problem when he was a CTO or in charge of the security of many companies. He always felt that in the end of the day, you need to tell the CISO or the customers, whoever it is, everything is okay. But you cannot, you can't know that everything is okay, because you have 200 developers and you don't really know what they've been doing this today or in the last week or in the last month. And actually what was really amazing was that when I was managing groups in other organizations, I had the same problem. So I was managing groups of developers, and sometimes developer would make a mistake that then it was something that I need to solve with the management. And all of us basically really felt this idea, this concept of preventing developer mistakes that cause security breach is huge. And the fact that it wasn't solved back then when we started was, for us, it was crazy. So we said, okay, let's understand how we're going to solve it. We raised money, we started, and because of COVID and because of the timing we had in the market, like think about the market, like everybody are working from home suddenly, and new environments. No, you can't really secure people. Like in any case, everything is risky right now. But with COVID, everything became even more complicated to protect, because everybody are working from home. You don't know what they're doing. If somebody works at 11 p.m., maybe he's tired, maybe he'll make a bigger mistake. So all those things were some things that will happen. And when we started meeting the market, we saw that we were right. So we were meeting companies from all around the world, huge companies, and everybody really understood this issue, this problem. And everything moved really, really fast. And then we met Check Point, and we felt that this is really amazing connection was created because, well, Check Point basically gives you the ability to protect everything, right? This is huge cyber company that gives you everything, and Spectral prevent the developer error that can cause security, and together we can really change. I don't want to say change the world, but in a way it's changing the world.
Yes, we are. That's right. We're part of, and when you think about the entire globe, we're a tiny little piece of it. But yes, these kinds of things, these meetings that founders have sitting around some kitchen table or wherever you were originally talking about these things do end up changing the world. I mean, look, that's Gil Schwed's story with Shlomo and Marius, right? Sitting around Gil's mother's kitchen table back when they were frantic kids. And obviously the impact. I mean, these are the founding fathers of network security, for crying out loud. So it is world changing. So it's wonderful to have you as part of that machine. Now, so give us an example of some of the threats that you would be solving for. So what could be in code that a CTO is worried about, that a corporation should be worried about, and how does the technology prevent the threat from taking place?
Okay, so I'll start from the most simple example. So let's talk about an AWS key. So obviously there are a lot of keys and a lot of secrets and a lot of misconfiguration that can happen, many type of mistakes. But let's start with the very basic one, which is a key, an AWS database key that a developer is using. There is a right way to use it. The right way use it would be to put it in the vault, to put the key in the vault. And when you need the key, you take it out from the vault and you put it in your code. But developers want to move fast, right? So they just put the key in the code, and then the code starts shifting, and a lot of people see it, and suddenly it's outside the organization. And once an hacker sees the AWS key, and it was checked, and it takes less than 20 minutes between the time the key is exposed in the public and the minute where an hacker takes it and tries to use it, it's less than 20 minutes on average. So if an hacker takes your AWS key, that means that it can actually takes everything from your database. It means that he can use your machines to do other stuff that you don't really want him to do, like Bitcoin mining or whatever it is. This sounds like really weird, but it actually happens to a lot of companies. And in today's world, you don't just use AWS database or machine. You have hundreds or thousands of services and solutions that you are using as part of your code. And any of them can be exposed if you are putting a key there. So think about your credit card. Would you put your credit card in the code and let all the other developers and other people in the company suddenly see it and think about GitLab? That means that this is solutions in the cloud. So everything is in the public.
This key, Idan, sorry to interrupt. So you mentioned AWS key or other keys. You're talking to a guy that's never coded in his life. Okay, so what is this key? A piece of code? And what does the key unlock in the AWS example?
So it's basically a password. So think about the password to your database. Okay. But in code, you don't use a regular password.
But why would a password that's really sensitive end up in a piece of public code or a piece of code that's out there?
So think about it like this. So let's say I'm a developer and I need to grab my data from the database. So in the code, I need to tell I need to write to my software and tell her, go to the database and fetch me this data that I need. And when you go there, this is the password. Again, the right way is not to write, here is the password. The right way would be to say something like, the password exists in the vault, go to the vault, take the key, and then open the database and find the data that I need. So what the developer is trying to do is basically think about that's the most simple way to think about it. Like he just used the code to reach out to other places and grab services or data.
Right. Because we're looking for automation in all of this code so that a solution can be provided to customers. When that developer is writing the code to say, go grab me this data, that code is the key, right? That code, like accessing that information is right. And so why would that piece of code end up in or rather, how would that piece of code end up in the public domain? What is the mistake that the developer does to reveal the code?
So this is a good point to think about the credit card. So let's talk about the credit. Let's say I am using a credit card number and I'm putting it in the code. And now this credit card number, which exists in the code, starts scrolling. Why? Because we're using cloud solution like GitHub. And then I want to share my code, right, with other developers that want to develop with me. And somebody needs to check my code. And then 2 years after, somebody wants to change something, so he sees my code. And then if the company decides to do an open source project, so they take my code and they put it in the public. And code is sprawling, and the secrets sprawl with the code. And in the past, like 10 years ago, right, there was no problem. Code was if we're talking about the company, the code was in the office, in a storage room with computers. But today it's in the cloud, and you start sharing it with more and more people because you want their contribution. But when you want their contribution, at the same time you are exposing your code, and suddenly they see it. And if there are things that you don't want them to see, that's starting to be a problem. Also think about an employee that left. Like if everybody are exposed to the secret, and now one of the people that is exposed actually leaves the company, are you comfortable with the fact he sees it, that he can have it? And by the way, another thing, just if we for a second won't talk about secret, let's think about configuration. So another thing that is happening, that you are using the code for configurations of services. So think about a logging system log system that you want to use. You will configure it in the code, or a machine that you want to use in AWS, and you configure it in the code. And because developers want to move fast, they will not necessarily read the documentation. They will not read the guide on how to do it. So they just do it in a most simple and basic way. And obviously, when they do it in the basic way, they don't really care about security. And misconfigurations in the code are actually one of the biggest risks that exist. So we have secrets that are leaking, and we have configuration. So those are two types of errors that can happen, and Spectral are actually scanning your code for. So anything that can cause your a security breach, those are the things we want to find and to scan for.
So we scan for misconfigurations. How does a misconfiguration provide a vulnerability? What does that look like?
So let's take the world of 10 or 20 years ago. I was building a machine, and I would take a computer and I would put an antivirus, and I would say this is the firewall, and etc. And I will build machine, and then I put my software on it. Today, when I do it on the cloud, I'm actually configuring everything in the code. There is a saying today in the software world called everything as a code, like infrastructure as a code, but actually everything is a code. So I'm writing in the code, give me a machine in AWS, provide me this configuration, and put my software on it. You probably heard about terms like containers and etc. So when I'm doing it, I also need to worry about security, right? I need to understand what's the right way to do it. And I don't want to put stuff in the public, for example. I don't want my configuration to say, put this computer out in the open. I put the port outside, put the network revealed, use the default password. So all those things are configurations that I can do, and I probably don't want to do them.
Right, got you, man. Wow. So this code, give us an idea of the amount of code, because I'm getting the impression that, again, I've never coded, right? I'm getting the impression that this is a lot of volume, and so it would be hard for people to find these secrets and misconfigurations. So I don't know. Let's just think of a company. Well, okay, I'm trying to get an example of a company, let's say of 30,000 people, so a fairly large company, or 10,000. They make a lot of stuff. I'm making this up as I go. How much are we measuring this in terabits of volume, or how much? Give me an idea for this massive data lake.
We're talking about it can be measured in terabytes. But think about lines of code, like developer that works today and he writes code. He can write hundreds of lines of code in one day. And you have usually in a large company would have thousands of lines of code written every day, and that means that on average a developer will do at least, so I don't share statistics that will sound bad, but think about it. The risk that a developer will make a mistake is pretty much 99%. Like he will make a mistake eventually. It will take time. He will make a mistake. The question is if this is a risky mistake or something that is okay because inside the organization we have enough defense to protect it. So that's the basic idea. Think about your day to day, and the fact that instead of doing what you're doing right now, you will write code all day long, write lines of code. You will write hundreds of lines of code during your day, and think about large teams of development. And by the way, there are mechanisms to check this, right? So a developer writes code and you want to release, there is a set of checks that needs to be performed, right? There is a QA guy, and then there's the manager of the team that checks the code, and there are a few solutions, automatic QAs that are being done. But the problem is that with the human eye, you cannot find all those mistakes because it's so many lines of code, so many things you need to discover. It's really hard to do it in a manual way, and that's why you're doing that in an automatic way. And there are other solutions to check the code for mistakes, but we are focusing on the mistakes that will be risky in terms of
we want to focus people's attention so that we don't have a lot of blinking lights. In a sense, it's
and by the way, something which is important about understanding security of developers, there is a term called shift left.
Right.
And maybe I should talk about this for a second.
Yes,
So
please.
when do you want to protect the code? So ideally, you would want to do it as early as possible in the development lifecycle, as early as possible in the development, because if the code was written and it was released, you are actually exposed already, right? So you want to do it when the developer is writing the code, or when he wants to release the code, but before he released it. So that's the idea, to be as shift-left as possible, to be as close to the developer as possible. And you actually need to build a solution a little bit differently if you want to be there. You want to be as an extension that the developer works with, and not as a security tool that scans the code after he finishes and tell him, actually you did a mistake, but now fix everything. So
yeah, that's the point. So that's shift left. That's what shift left is.
Yeah, so shift left is doing, the left means early in the development life cycle. Shift right is later in the development cycle.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
We're shifting left. So shift left means the earliest possible development cycle, and Spectral wants to be also as shift left as possible in the development, but we support the entire development life cycle. So you can use Spectral in each stage in your development life cycle.
So a good analogy then would be, it's kind of like every single one of these software developers is writing a massive novel, Dostoevsky, like big novel, and they wrote it one time without spell check, and then they publish it, right?
So there are spell checks. There are spell checks. To be honest, like there are spell checks, and there are people that are checking it. But specifically, the issue of secrets, it's a huge challenge. And just to give you an example for a child, let's say you think about a random string of letters. Is it a password or is it part of the code? How would you know? Right. So this is a challenge, because you don't want, you don't want to give too many false positives. You don't want to tell somebody, I saw here a random string of letters, and this is a password. It's a little bit more tricky. So we use, first of all, AI to understand. We scanned a lot of public code in order to teach our machines what is an actual problem and what is not. And then we really understand what is the key and what is the password, etc. And on top of that, we have a lot of in-house researchers that build detectors, and together the research together with the AI is helping us recognize the passwords and tokens and AI and keys in a way that will have very little false positives.
Wow. Yeah, what is your recommendation for when a customer does get a false positive? I mean, the reason I asked that question, it's a horrible question, right? We have this big debate in cybersecurity. You're aware of this. So let me set a foundation here for why I asked such a question. Checkpoint, from the very beginning, has said prevention, not detection. This is the only best and truest method for cybersecurity. And of course, everybody on the planet does prevention of known threats. This is easy. There are a lot of vendors in the top right-hand quadrant of Gartner. They can do this. They can prevent unknown threats. But then there's the any allow, right? Because my understanding is people are afraid, of course, if it's an unknown, well, it could be legitimate business, and we don't want to slow the business down through a false positive, or it could be a threat, a vulnerability of some kind. And so the way I talk to chief information security officers about this is pick your poison. We don't get to not drink poison. This is the problem in our world, right? We blue pill, red pill. Which one do you want? So you can either let the unknown in, and then through some kind of zero trust architecture, you can contain the threat. This is a problem that you need to deal with. It takes energy, it takes money, it takes resources and intellect, etc. Okay. Or you can prevent the unknown as best as possible, and you will, on occasion, have false positives, and you can deal with that in the same manner, a similar manner as you would with technology, resources, people, engineering, so that you can never repeat the same false positive again, and you can minimize the amount of impact from the false positive. Now, pick your poison. They're both ugly. We think one is uglier, letting in the unknown threats, right? But the other one is ugly too. So what is your recommendation for how customers should manage a false positive so that they never have the same one again and it has the least amount of impact to the business?
So this is a great question, because obviously this is a huge challenge, and we also face it as we evolved as a company. So, and by the way, last time we checked and we benchmarked ourselves, we got less than 4% false positive.
Amazing. 4%, less than 4%.
Less than 4%.
Lovely. Yeah.
It was amazing, and obviously it depends on the code you have, etc. But that was a great benchmark. And what's the logic behind it? So first of all, I mentioned, so we have a lot of mechanism to prevent those false positives. We use the AI and the research, etc. But on top of that, we have different modes for different people. So what we understood is that if you are a developer, you have different tolerance for false positive than if you're the security guy. And sometimes you actually are willing to get more recall rate because you want to be getting everything. So I'll give you an example. So let's say you're running Spectral, and it's part of the development lifecycle. You want to be as accurate as possible, and that's what we call the developer mode. But then sometimes you acquire the new company. You want to do one-time scan to see everything, and you're willing to get more false positives. So we'll provide you a different mode of scanning, and you can choose in which state are you, and actually have a few of those. So different use cases in the same company can happen, and that's one solution. The second solution is, as you mentioned, to mark false positives. So it's really critical to evolve with the product. So when you see something, we as a solution provider, we have to provide a very easy way to mark false positive and to understand that in the next time it will not appear. So we do it in various ways, but the point was that if we provided the security guy in the dashboard, let's say he finds a false positive, just 2 clicks away from marking it a false positive. But on the other hand, the developer can give his feedback from the developer environment. If he see finding, he can share his feedback with the security guy, and then that feedback will also be used to prevent false positive in the future.
Right. That's brilliant, man. And less than 4% is amazing accuracy. I mean, the engineering that's gone into this is obviously stellar. And look, to the customers listening to this kind of debate between, and it is scary. Let's just own that. It's scary to think about managing false positives, and it's not easier, but it's an easier decision to say, okay, any allow kind of thing. Look, the Securities and Exchange Commission in the United States last March issued a new ruling, and they said, look, but this is because of Colonial Pipelines and a few others. Look at the supply chain, and unless you are examining the cybersecurity of your supply chain now, not just your company, but your supply chain, we are going to enact penalties on you. So there are now financial penalties for publicly traded companies who don't examine, let's just say, the cybersecurity of their vendors as well as their own. And so the penalty, the consequence for allowing in an unknown threat and then dealing with it, and the potential for leakage of sensitive data. I mean, GDPR in Europe, right? This has become a lot more significant. It really speaks to the prevention architecture that our founders at Checkpoint have been preaching for 30 years now. They're stuck to that message. All right, we are going to start to pivot to where we can find some information, and we'll close out this session. So we were chatting a little earlier. I'll share my screen. So this is resources.checkpoint.com, and then /cybersecurity resources CloudGuard Spectral product brief. That's a mouthful. I'll have to replay that one. But here it is, ladies and gentlemen. And actually what I might be able to do is just throw this in the chat myself, so that people can get this. Let's just do this. Do you want to just tell us what this is all about here?
And I'll send you another link also that you can share with the audience, which is shorter, and basically they can use it first of all to read about Spectral and to understand what we're doing, what's the problem we are trying to solve. But on top of that, you can actually try Spectral, which is great because you can go into the website, to Spectral Ops website, and it's also available as part of Checkpoint website, and you can actually try Spectral, scan your code for free, and play with it and see the advantages that it will provide you.
Let's show everybody how to do that right now. So if I'm starting with Google, where do I go? Do I go to checkpoint.com?
The easiest, fastest way, just search for Spectral Ops, search for Spectral Ops, and you'll be able to see it.
Spectral Ops, did you say?
Yeah.
Okay, Spectral Ops. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, this first one, .io.
Yep.
Beautiful. All right, here we are. This is lovely, man. Okay, lovely splash page talking about Checkpoint. That's great.
And you can see here that you can actually, if you see on the top right side, you have the ability to create your own account, and it's easy as that to try Spectral, play with it, and scan your code. You know, I'm telling you, I offer everybody in the audience, just feel free to try it. You don't need to buy it. You can just use it, get some value out of it, and enjoy Spectral, and hopefully you would like it. And if you do, I'm here.
Beautiful. Okay, I just pasted that one in the chat too. Yes, that's true. You are here as well. How do people get hold of, maybe not, well, look, I mean, you know, do people get hold of you? Like, where's the support team? How do they do that? And maybe we should show them through the website. I don't want you to give out your phone number.
Yeah, so if you go back to the website, there is here, there is request a demo in the, just there, request a demo. You can request a demo. One of our team members will contact you, and happy to show you the product, tell you in more depth about everything that we can do.
Epic, my friend. Well, listen, I am blown away. Boom. You know, that was really great. You solved a problem, a really big problem, and I think we need to get the word out to developers that look, we're not slowing you down anymore. We are working with you as you go, and I think that's a great model. Thank you for solving it. It's a lot of dedication and hard work to launch a company, and I know you've got a long way to go. So, you know, welcome to the Checkpoint family, belated welcome, and enjoy, my friend. So any other thoughts before we close out the broadcast?
No, it's been a pleasure to be here. If anybody has a question, you can also feel free to reach out anytime. Our team is happy to assist, and I hope it was interesting for the crowd.
Beautiful. Stay right there while I head offline. Ladies and gentlemen, good luck, and thank you for listening.